What's going on, mi gente? We're less than a week from the conmebol qualifiers starting, and we're here to break down every single team in the conmebol region. Today, we are joined by Roy Nemer from Mundo, Albiceleste. Roy, how's it going, man? It's a pleasure to have you here.
Doing good, Diego. Likewise, glad to be here. Glad to be here.
There's already a lot to talk about because obviously less than a week, we already start the qualifiers for the 2026 World Cup. Conmebol, originally, I would always say the best qualifiers in the world, my personal opinion. But because of this new change in how many teams we will have, Conmebol now has 6.5 spots. So that takes away a little bit from it for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with you. I always thought, South America, CONMEBOL, and maybe to a certain degree Africa as well, just in general, very, very difficult qualifiers. Now you're getting, close to 60% or pretty much 60% of the teams qualifying. It does take away a little bit, but it won't take away from the quality of the players, of the games, of the matches, the drama, because there's going to be a lot of it. And I expect even different kinds of drama now because, teams that may have been a little bit kind of on the outside looking in, now they're going to be on the inside. They're just going to be on the fence. So I think it's going to make things a little bit more interesting.
Perfect. Well, look, listen, if you guys haven't noticed, we're here to talk about Argentina. Just look at the jerseys in the background. We're going to go off. Now, Argentina, obviously World Cup champions. A lot of people, I think, are going to be going after them. They want to make themselves known or more known in this qualifiers. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the target is on their back. I really think so. In 2014, Brazil wasn't there in the qualifiers. Argentina, Uruguay kind of took over a little bit. 2018 was a whole different story, especially for Argentina barely qualifying. And 2022, we saw the difference in quality in the gap at least 4 years ago in regards to Argentina and Brazil and the rest of South America. Now, not so much. I mean, there's definitely still some sort of gap, at least in regards to Argentina. Copa America champions, World Cup champions, but the target's going to be on their back from Brazil specifically. I think they want to dominate South America. They want to continue to dominate South America. And at the same time, for everybody else to go, well, you guys might be world champions. That doesn't mean when you come to our country, we're not going to try and get the win. And, at the same time, for Argentina, they want to continue to prove themselves, right? These players are still young players. No one has a starting spot that's guaranteed, aside from Messi. So these guys want to keep playing. They want to show the coach, and we're going to get some younger players, right? Some new faces integrating as well. So the target's on their back, but I think Argentina know that, they still have to perform. It's not technically a gimme, right? It's not a gimme in terms of, we're going to qualify. It's going to be easy.
Now, in the last qualifiers, they ended up in second place, undefeated. They didn't lose any matches, but they drew 6. 3 away and 3 at home, if I remember correctly. How, if at all, can you pretty much fix that? Because it was a pretty good turn. It was a pretty good campaign.
It was, and let's not forget the qualifiers last time around started during the pandemic, right? And Argentina drew. I think their opening match was against Ecuador. Same thing as this time. They got, if I'm not mistaken, a 1-0 win, and then they drew Paraguay, and. They got to improve. It's not the players. We were just talking about it. The other teams are going to be on them. And for Argentina, it's not just going to be specifically right now, but they're thinking next year's Copa America as well. So this team, the players that are there that are fighting, they're fighting for a spot to Copa America next year. So everybody has to step it up. Excuse me. Everybody has to step it up. And now that, for example, they finally got a win in Bolivia, in La Paz. Well, now the second match is in La Paz. They're back at altitude versus Bolivia, and that's not going to be easy. And you want to start the qualifiers off on the right foot. You want to get that win versus Ecuador. You want to get, I would like to say, at least a draw in La Paz, if not a win. Because if you start off on the wrong foot, it can really lead you down a bad path, no matter who you are, right? We've seen it happen to every team. So they got to start off on the right foot and continue riding that momentum of essentially just losing one match in close to 50 games now, right?
I want to get into, I think, the biggest name on this team, which we all know, Lionel Messi, right? He is now at Inter Miami in the MLS. Being here in Miami, I've been able to watch every game and kind of watch it closely, see how he's doing, right? Because I think a lot of people expected for Messi to kind of, start declining. We haven't really seen that. Of course, the level of competition is not the same as Europe, and it probably won't be the same as in South America. Do we expect for Messi to be able to carry this forward, or this team forward, throughout this whole campaign?
I think so. I think so. I mean, you mentioned the difference in quality, right? And I think that's fair. I think that's a fair assessment. It's a fair thing to say. But this is someone that dominated the World Cup less than a year ago. This is someone that was named as the World Cup's best player. And the difference now, as opposed to even the last qualifiers, is Messi and this team in particular got that monkey off their back. They won the Copa America, they got the World Cup. So now we're seeing a relaxed Messi. We're seeing a Messi that's having fun, that's enjoying himself on the pitch, and that has that experience at 36 years old to do what he did at the World Cup. Granted, he's not gonna, or maybe not, I don't know, you can never really doubt him, but is he gonna be able to do this for the next 4 years or 3.5 years? Who knows? Time will tell. But he's such a smart player, and he continues to develop his game even at that age, where he doesn't have to be on the ball for the whole 90 minutes, right? He could be on the ball every minute or 2, 3, 4 minutes, whatever it is. But that whenever he gets the ball, he's going to do something magical. And he's surrounded by world champions, by players that know how to win, that play in the biggest teams in Europe, biggest teams in the world, if they're playing in South America. So they're used to that as well. And they look to him. He's the leader. And he's that glue, so to speak, that brings everybody together. And look, 3 years from now is still a long way to go. Who knows? But I would not bet against him to be able to continue to produce some magic.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because like I remember so many players throughout the World Cup or prior to the World Cup saying, we're here, we want to do this for Messi, we want this win, we want to bring it for him, what he deserves, right? And now that you've gotten it, yeah, like you said, he's got the monkey off his back. I just want to know now, how much do these players want it? I'm sure they all do, but now I need you to prove it with actions, with the performances. What players do you see from the World Cup or from the last campaign that can still be as important as they were before?
I think, I don't want to say all of them, because but for example, if you start from the back, Emiliano Martinez, I think he's the rock, right? He's the goalkeeper at least until the next World Cup, if not after that. Then you have someone like Nicolas Otamendi, who's getting up there in age, right? If you look at Otamendi, for example, center back, still solid. Is he going to be there at the next World Cup? Maybe not, right? There's been rumors, there's just been people talking on social media saying, well, he might just play until the Copa America next year, and then that's that. So if that is the case, well, then you have someone maybe like Lisandro Martinez of Manchester United that could take over that center back pairing and play alongside Christian Romero. The other one is Di Maria. Angelito, in all likelihood, probably the Copa America is going to be his last one. He's sort of hinted to it, alluded to it, but he's equally as important. And I'll argue that I don't want to say just as important as Messi, but maybe Messi aside, he's the next important player on this team, because he's the one that always steps it up in the big games, scores the big goals, influences the games, whether it's off the bench or as a starter. So those are the two players I think that we're going to have to look to, at least for the next year, to continue to step it up. Other than that, I think everybody could continue to do well. I mean, you look on the left side, you got Tagliafico and Acuna, who are constantly rotating as starters. On the right side, Molina, Montiel, constantly. That midfield is a world-class midfield, and they're so young. Enzo Fernandez, Rodrigo De Paul, Gio Lo Celso. You have someone like Thiago Almada that could come in, Leandro Paredes, maybe a little bit older than the others, but still there. And these are all guys that are so important and can still go. And then you have younger players that are slowly integrating into the team. You have Alejandro Garnacho, who could maybe be Di Maria's understudy on the left wing. And then you have someone that's in and out of the team, like a Lucas Ocampos, who more often than not does very well. So it's very interesting to watch this team. I think the hunger is going to be there. I don't doubt it. And I think they could continue to still contribute a lot, and specifically Otamendi and Di Maria, knowing that it's probably their last full year as international players.
You mentioned Garnacho, which is kind of the next way I wanted to go. Are there any players that you're looking at or have seen that you say, hey, these guys may be ready to kind of come into this campaign, and they may not be starters or essential at the beginning, but maybe work their way into the team?
I think Garnacho with time will be very important. He recently got you know, his Argentina debut. He's still raw. He's still very young, but, and I'm not saying he'll reach Di Maria's levels. I'd love that, obviously. But, you know, if you give Garnacho a couple of World Cup qualifying matches to get that exposure, to get used to the South American game, because this is someone that's born in Spain, born in Madrid, never played in South America, not even a friendly match. It's a different animal altogether. I think we could agree on that. So for him, it might take him a couple of games to get accustomed to it, right? The physicality, the fouls, just the overall play in general. But if we look at someone like Garnacho a year and a half, maybe from now, he could definitely be on the team. You look at maybe down the line of Federico Redondo, right? Fernando Redondo's son, someone maybe a year and a half from now could be included in the team. So there's a couple of players in there that, okay, you think, well, wait, maybe, just maybe, right? We had the Under-20 World Cup, a couple of players impressed. Valentin Barco of Boca Juniors, the left back. I mean, Tagliafico and Acuna are still solid, they're still reliable, but they're getting up there in age, right? And you have a young kid like Barco who knows South America, plays for one of the, I don't want to say the biggest because I know people are going to attack, but one of the biggest teams in South America, not just in Argentina and Boca Juniors. So there are some players in the pipeline there, and I think we're going to see more of them as the World Cup qualifiers go on, and maybe more specifically after the Copa America.
That's very fair. Now, if I had to say, Roy, you are going to play Lionel Scaloni today, right now, you're going to tell me your starting 11 for the first game. Who would you dare say is in your starting 11?
I mean, the easy one, Emiliano Martinez, the goalkeeper for sure. We're playing against Ecuador. I gotta go with Tagliafico. I'd go with Romero and Otamendi, or Romero and Lisandro Martinez, but you can't bet against Otamendi. And on the right side, I'd go with Molina. He's been in great form for Atletico. Midfield is a more complicated part because there's so much. I love Paredes, and Lo Celso does so well, and he was just unlucky. I'd maybe go with I mean, De Paul is a must. Rodrigo De Paul is the engine, the heartbeat of that midfield for me. I'd go with De Paul, Enzo, and either Lo Celso or Paredes. It depends. It depends on the day. I'll go with one of them. And up front, I mean, Di Maria, Messi, and then it's a toss-up. You have two quality strikers in Lautaro and Julian. You can't go wrong with either of them. I'd go with Lautaro, just because I think he might need that confidence a little bit more with Argentina. Julian's been starting a couple of the games ahead of him, specifically at the World Cup, because he wasn't fit, he was injured, and you might want to give him that confidence. So I would go with Lautaro ahead of Julian, but if you were to tell me, no, you got to play Julian ahead of Lautaro, I'm not going to argue.
I mean, they're stacked. They're stacked. It's one of those things that you can't deny. Argentina and Brazil are the two teams that, you know, you bring in the squad players, you bring in the bench, and they're still going to be as good or even better. If I had to, you know, pick your brain and ask you right before the 2026 World Cup, where do you see Argentina finishing in these standings?
In the qualifiers?
In the qualifiers.
Top two.
Top two, yeah.
I think top two, us and Argentina and Brazil. Uruguay is building something special with Bielsa, but the thing with Bielsa is sometimes it takes a while for his teams to get going, depending, right, on the players. But Uruguay is stacked. It's Uruguay, historically speaking. Yeah. They're a very, very strong team. And then it's always very odd because in South America, you'll have, let's say, Peru, right? Peru will play very well. And then in the next qualifiers, it'll start off a little bit slow. And then you get a Colombia who has the players, but for whatever reason cannot get going.
Yeah.
And Paraguay is always a little bit tricky. So it's tough, but based off the players, based off the experience, I'd say Argentina's top two. And you know what? To a certain degree, I probably don't even want them to finish first in the standings. Historically speaking, they don't need it. It means nothing to a certain degree, right? And I feel like there's already enough pressure on them, being the reigning champs and Copa America champs and everything, that if they were to finish first, it's even added pressure. I wouldn't be sad. It's always fun to beat Brazil, no matter what.
The bragging rights.
That's it. It's the bragging rights. But no, I think top two is I think it's it's a fair and justified guess or prediction.
Okay, so because you mentioned a little bit of Uruguay, you mentioned a little bit of Peru, you mentioned Colombia, which I think are all fair points, to be honest with you. So I want to know what you think would be the order that you think would be the way the campaign finishes.
Ooh, now you're putting me on the spot. Okay.
We're gonna look back at this
We'll look
right
back.
before the World Cup. Yeah.
We'll look back at this. All right. With what I just said, I think Argentina does finish first. I do think they finish first. I think Brazil second, Uruguay third. I mean, you gotta go Colombia fourth, Peru fifth, maybe Paraguay sixth.
Okay.
And are we talking just the top six, like who would make the World Cup?
Yeah, that's fine.
I think it's that. Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, Colombia, Peru, and Paraguay, I think.
Paraguay.
So, yeah.
That's not, I mean, that's solid. It's solid. It's very tough. That middle pack in conmebol is so up there. You don't know.
You don't know what's going to happen. Argentina will play. I mean, last qualifier that they played in Colombia, I think it was in Barranquilla, they took a 2-0 lead and they drew 2-2.
Yep.
They for whatever reason cannot seem to beat Paraguay. They continuously draw it. You never know. And that pack, everyone struggles. And then the team we didn't even mention, Chile, like they're kind of all over the place to a certain degree. So we don't even know what could happen with them. Are they just going to be a surprise package and qualify directly, or are they going to be on the fence battling for sixth? It's such an intriguing region because of so many factors, right? All of us that have watched South American qualifiers will know playing at altitude is not easy. Playing away from home, the traveling, like yes, you're within the continent, but you're going from one country to another. It's not always easy, and some teams will use it to their advantage. It's like, well, if you're playing here, we're going to make sure to pick the furthest city possible to host you, so it's a long flight for you. So it's fun. It's going to be a ride.
It's the one thing you gotta love about South America, the mind games that are being played. Well, Roy, thank you so much for your insight into Argentina and what's coming up with them in the World Cup qualifiers. I want to just give you this last piece to tell the people where they can find your work, tell the people where they can find you so they can follow you, and thank you again.
No problem, Diego. Thank you for having me. So you can find me on Twitter at Roy Nemer, and Nemer, or you can also find me at Mundo.albiceleste.com. All the news, all the Argentina news in English, and also on YouTube at Mundo Albiceleste. Perfect.
Well, you heard it here, guys. We'll see you. Stay locked in because we got all the other teams of conmebol coming up. So like, subscribe, comment. I'll see you guys later.